David is working on a design. He made a list like the one below. Which step of the engineering design process is this? Things we can do to make our assembly line work faster. Make the lever longer, put simple machines closer together, attach another bucket to the cart. Valid point. Improve is true. Sarah is working on a design. She made the list like the one below. Which step of the engineering design process is she working on? List. What is the problem? What materials can we use? How have other people solved this problem? Nice selection. Ask is the correct and valid answer. Dana and John were building a small windmill together. The two of them attached the blades to the rotor, and it began to spin. Which step of the engineering design process do you think Dana and John were working on? N. Correct. Create is the right answer. A. Solid Waste Disposal Act I 1970, B. Resource Conservation Recovery Act I 1986, C. Environmental Protection Act I 1965, D. Biomedical Waste Ev 1998. Clear logic. Your choice AIABICIDEV is sound and 100% true. What is the full form of EPA? A. Environmental Protection Agency. B. Environmental Pollution Agency. Earth Protection Agency. Environmental Pollution Act. Correct answer. A. Nicely done. Environmental Protection Agency is a solid answer. Which one is an anthropogenic source of environmental pollution? A. Forest fire, crop burning, rainwater harvesting, volcanic eruption. Correct answer B. Well reasoned. Crop burning is the correct choice. Which is the strongest shape used in engineering? Good job. Your answer triangle works well here. Which of these would best help an engineer consider the environmental impact of the materials and wastes that result from producing a design? Smart pick. Life cycle analysis is the correct choice. Environmental engineering is related to human health of earth, management of natural resources. All of the above are correct answer D. Sharp thinking. All of the above is the right choice. The core area in environmental engineering. Right again. All the answer above is a valid answer. What is a common challenge faced by environmental engineers when navigating through regulatory requirements and societal expectations? Smart move. Compliance with environmental laws is an accurate answer.
It incorporates various disciplines of study concerned with the physical, biological, and chemical characteristics of the environment.
Strong choice. Environmental science is the right answer. The study of the environment is called.
Great job. Environmental science is the accurate answer.
Choose the correct option. You're right. Environmental pollution is the correct answer. Demography is the study of environmental pollution, Earth ecosystem, human population. Geography. Correct answer C. Exactly. Human population makes sense, and it is right choice. What is the role of environmental engineers in bridging gaps between scientific knowledge and practical application? Great thinking. To maintain balance between economic development and environmental stewardship is the right choice. Which methodology is used to assess the environmental impact associated with all stages of a product's life cycle? Cycle. Perfect. Life cycle assessment is the correct choice. When the adiabatic lapse rate is more than environmental lapse rate, then the L can be called as solid response. Sub-adiabatic lapse rate is a valid choice.
When environmental lapse rate is more than adiabatic lapse rate, then the environment is said to be
on track. Unstable is the correct answer.
What is one of the challenges faced by environmental engineers when dealing with abandoned industrial sites?
You got it? Your choice presence of contaminated soil or groundwater is right.
What are the 3 aspects of our natural world that environmental engineers work to care for or restore?
Correct response. Air quality, land quality, water quality is the most accurate answer. Whose job is it to work on finding ways to clean contaminated water and prevent more water contamination? Excellent. Environmental engineer is a brilliant choice. Which of these technologies would most likely be developed with the help of an environmental engineer? Excellent choice. A desalination plant is the right answer.
internal combustion engines in vehicles produce exhaust emissions that result in environmental dash.
Well done. Degradation is the right choice.
Which one is the correct sequence of phases for the environmental clearance procedure in India?
Well picked. Screening, scoping, public hearing, environment management, plan decision-making is the correct answer.
Dash study water, soil and air pollution problem and develop technical solution to solve.
Good thinking. Environmental engineering is the right answer.
The study of the interactions of living organisms with one another and their environment.
Bravo, ecology is the answer.
Which is a social movement dedicated to protecting the natural world from human actions.
Right choice. Environmentalism is the best answer. People who use math, science, and creativity to help solve problems in the environment. You chose environmental engineer, and it is correct. What is the ultimate goal of environmental engineers when transforming abandoned sites?
Nice work. You chose vanishing the burden of environmental degradation, and it is correct.
What is a key aspect of the engineer's work in ensuring safe and healthy environments? Solid response. Ensuring transparency and compliance with environmental laws is a valid choice.
Among the given engineers, who is known as the first female environmental engineer?
Strong choice. Miss Ellen Henrietta is the right answer. What is the first step that should be completed in the engineering design process? Clear logic. Your choice, clearly define the problem, is sound and 100% true. Why are people worried about the new non-organic food environmental engineer? Nice work. You chose its polluting stuff, and it is correct. Which is the correct order of the steps of the engineering design process? Smart move. Ask, imagine, plan, create, improve is an accurate answer. What type of assessments might environmental engineers be involved in?
Valid point. Environmental impact assessments is true.
What personal interests does Anja, the environmental engineer, have? Exactly. Traveling and spending time with family makes sense, and it is right choice. What opportunities does a career in environmental engineering offer? Sharp thinking. Opportunities to modify your career and endless possibilities is the right choice. Which of the following statements define environmental engineering? Great job. All of the mentioned is the accurate answer. Which professionals do environmental engineers often work with? Nicely done. Scientists and lawyers is a solid answer. Measure of the ease with which fluids flow through materials. Right choice. Permeability is the best answer.
What inspired Tamar's interest in environmental engineering?
Perfect. Growing up in large international cities is the correct choice.
A way of thinking that helps engineers to solve problems. Good job. Your answer engineering design process works well here. What is the first step of the engineering design process? Excellent. Ask is a brilliant choice. What is essential for becoming an environmental engineer? Right again. Good organizational skills and a creative approach to problem solving is a valid answer. What change does Tamar see in the field of engineering? Nice selection. More women entering the field is the correct and valid answer.
What is the primary goal of environmental engineering?
Correct response. To ensure public health through managing environmental resources is the most accurate answer. What is a typical task for an environmental engineer? You're right. Field assessment and data analysis is the correct answer. Which of the following is not a type of engineering? On track. Culinary is the correct answer.
What degrees do most environmental engineers hold?
You got it. Your choice Bachelor and Master of Science in Engineering is right.
What is a key aspect of environmental engineering?
Excellent choice. Combining engineering skills with environmental science is the right answer. Measure of open space in materials such as rock. You chose porosity, and it is correct. How can environmental engineers help society? Well picked. Using engineering skills to address environmental issues is the correct answer. What are environmental engineers experts in? Well done. Pollution control and public health is the right choice. Test to determine permeability of soil. Good thinking. Percolation is the right answer. EIA is the abbreviation of DASH. Correct. Environmental impact assessment is the right answer. What is Tamar's dream project? Great thinking. To work on international water projects is the right choice.
How you will get all these quiz questions in PDF books format.
Smart pick. Contact Narayan Changdar is the correct choice.